All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome, everybody. Monica's coming in from Tysons, Virginia. Love it. And if everybody wants to change their chat to not just coming to the hosts and panelists, but going to everybody, we can make this a free-for-all. As long as everybody's reasonable. Right, Eric? No unreasonability. You get booted for being unreasonable. All right. Welcome, everybody. This is the IT Leadership Building Smarter IT Teams for Federal Success. We probably have some Govies here as well, so we'll talk about that. Love that. I want to welcome Eric Bloom. It's your first time doing Gov Brief, right?
Yes, absolutely. Looking
first
forward
time.
to it.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate you joining us. And we do industry briefings as well as interagency briefings here at Gov Brief, where we reach out to government personnel as well. And this event, you're not going to believe this, Eric, this event is not affiliated or endorsed by any agency, including GSA. It's provided to you, the audience, for informational purposes only. And your participation, if you're a government, is voluntary, and any engagement by you, government personnel, is not an indication or endorsement to purchase from anybody, including ITML Institute. Although, if you'd like to, you still can, because you have a lot of Govies on your team that are you're training anyway. But we have to do that. GSA makes us do it. And this is being recorded, so be careful what you say. And secondarily, is AI transcription is prohibited. You know why, Eric?
Why is that?
Because we're real freaking human beings here. That's why. We're going to talk about AI, but we're talking about training on AI, but we're going to stay human. So tell us a little bit about ITML Institute, how you got started back there, up there in Hopkinton, Massachusetts.
Well, I got started because a lot of the stuff that we teach I really could have used when it was earlier in my career. In 2009, during the financial meltdown, as they say, I had the opportunity to do new things. Always wanted to get, I was a CIO at the time, actually, wanted to give back to the industry. Always loved adult education and IT, and this is the blending of the two.
I love it. And you are a best-selling author, so you have that driven. What is that? Productivity-driven?
Productivity-driven success. It's on internal organizational productivity. I used to be I'm a former nationally syndicated columnist with Gatehouse Media. I was in about 250, maybe 300 newspapers a week around the country. Tabs, the medium-sized newspapers. I'm a certified professional speaker, which means I could do this all day long through NSA. That's the National Speakers Association. It's the NSA that talks, not the NSA that listens. And also did some TEDx speaking, and I'm the executive director of the ITML Institute.
That's awesome. Well, welcome aboard. I feel like I have to step up my game if I have a CSP here. Just saying. Have to do that. We love the questions. We love if you have any questions. I think we have like 50 some odd folks that are going to be joining us today. Some people can't make it but they're going to get the recording. As I mentioned, is being recorded. We'll talk about that a little bit later. So if you have something you'd like to comment on, you got a question, anything, pop it in the Q&A or raise your hand. We can unmute people as we go along. If you have private dialogue, that means you don't want everybody else and their mother to see. You can send it to eric.bloom@itmlinstitute.org. And as I mentioned, we do love that feedback. And let me know, first feedback that we got is if you click on this here link at the top, that you can get to this page that looks like this. Let me know, thumbs up if you can get there, and I'm going to tell you what to do if you can get there. If you can't get there, put it in the chat, and we'll make sure you can get the document some other way. Everybody, I see hearts. I see a heart. Is it working? Anybody? Anybody having trouble? Let me know if you're having. There we go. Looks like looks like it's working. Now, everybody go up to the upper corner, hit this download button. It'll grab all those things. You don't have to do it individually. You can download them all. And that way you can have those for your reading pleasure once you're done. And included in that is going to be the PowerPoint PDF, which Eric is going to show you. There's additional documents in there. I always love to help folks understand what is happening in the federal space, and where we can look right now is no further than the White House doing executive orders and action plans. We also have OPM guidance on training. If you're a federal government employee, you can get reimbursed for your training using SF-182s, and there's two of those in there. And if you need to adjust one, there may be an additional one that we need to add, Eric. There's two of them in there, one for leadership, one for management, but I think you have a third that we can talk about that for you today. And we're also going to be engaging in very, very important polls, including why are you here, for crying out loud? And with that, I'm going to transition the slides over to Eric. But let us know why you're here. Short answer is fine for what you're looking to have. Okay, Candy says it's not secure because you have, every once in a while there's firewall issues, Sandy. So Candy. We'll make sure you get that. And I'm going to do this. Candy, do me a favor. Let's see. I might be able to do it.
To be able to do the share?
Yeah, go ahead. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right, let me make sure you have the authority to do the share. There you go. Let's do that. And then I'll stop sharing when you're ready. There you go. I'm going to get you a Dropbox link and see if you can. I'm going to get a Dropbox for those of you who can't get to those handouts. Hold on one second. Copy the Dropbox link. All right, there you go. See if you can get to that if you can't get to the other one. All right, and we're going to give you a couple minutes here. So you created the term triple helix because double helix just wasn't good enough for Eric. That's what I heard.
Well, actually, be honest with you, that's true. We came up with three things. We said, what should we call it? This came up. My daughter is a genetic counselor. So with her assistance, double helix turned to triple, and here we are.
That's awesome. Now, and you've been training for a while. And what I like about this, so for those of you who don't know me, I have ISI Federal and GovBrief, but we use that to educate government folks. We also use it to gain an advantage for those. Close your ears if you're from the government. We use it so that we can help folks understand what's important to be included in their scopes of work and certainly certification. So for those of you who don't know, you can actually leverage certifications, professional certifications like ISO, right? ISO, Six Sigma, and this is no different, where you can include these types of trainings as part of differentiators for you in the federal market space. So if you're in, now you can unplug your ears if you're government. You may be interested in increasing your knowledge and enhancing your capacity to be able to move upward in the food chain, right? That's one way, right, Eric? That's where you spend most of your time, right?
Absolutely.
Helping folks like that. On the other side, for government contractors, you want to be able to, push those competitors and provide competitive differentiators so that the government chooses you for contracts. Everybody, thumbs up on that? And is that Candy? Glad you got yours. So I love it. I love it. All right. So take us through this. I'm gonna end this poll in another. You can type if you want to. We're gonna end it in another 10 seconds, and then I'm gonna share that with everybody as Eric gets ready to do this next thing. So we're talking about assessment, analysis, and delivery, right?
Yes, absolutely.
That's the whole thing. So all right, 5, 4, 3, 2. Any last minute wallflowers want to hit that button and get it in? All right, here we go. We're going to look at this. I'm going to tell you what folks are looking for here. Ensure compliance with federal IT standards. Love that. Very important. Learn more about collaborating with federal representatives. Like that. Government contractor looking to expand my knowledge. Fairly new to the federal space. Love that. IT staff aug, right? And staffing, right? Like that. Certified project manager. There's a great certification, right? Right there for Candace. And AI transformation consultant. So both of those, very, very good. And want to know how to sell your services as a government contractor. Absolutely good. Incorporating these trainings will help. Somebody's just here to listen. That's okay. We don't mind that, right, Eric?
Absolutely.
I learned more about IT leadership. Love that. Leverage my chances of moving on up. Eloise. Love it. Knowledge in all caps except for the K. Love that one too. IT training, maximize learning. All right. Curiosity, explore new tools for my business. Fantastic. Started GovCon business. Welcome aboard. Welcome to the craziness. Just in time for a shutdown. That's what I see, Dante. Learning and to be armed with more info to resist RFP intimidation. Fantastic. All right. Well, let's get us started here. Eric, we'll get cooking. Tell us about IT training. You've been doing this for a while, like you said, 2009.
2009 we started. Yeah, I got interested in it because actually I taught college one night a week for about 15 years on similar related topics on IT. When I had the opportunity to start a company, there was so much I wish I learned earlier in my career, and this was my way of giving it back. And so many times as we go through our stuff, and then I'll start the presentation, as I give advice or teach materials, is I think to myself, man, where was I when I was 30? I could have used that advice, or 40 or 50 for that matter. But anyway, let's begin. I'd like to tell you about what this triple helix of training is, because it can really maximize government contracting and delivery with excellence. Now, by the way, this is equally applicable to both contractors as well as government employees. We have a lot of both, actually, that are in our classes, and they're all specifically designed to be equally appropriate to both sides. So anyway, as we go into it, there we go. Let's talk about what the goal is. The goal of this triple helix training thing. It's to optimize training effectiveness for federal government delivery by connecting organizational goals and learners' needs. Think of those two. When the organization and the learners' needs connect, that's where the magic happens. But do it with data-driven insights that create impactful execution. So in other words, the data-driven part is important because you'll see, we'll talk more about it later. But bottom line is we want to make sure we're training the right people on the right things. There we go. So let's talk about each of these 3 points individually, and then we'll dig down how it's used. The assessment, what it does is it allows individuals to define and assess the skills and knowledge needed to, and this is important, enhance their current job performance, as well as position themselves for future promotions. The analysis is, say you have 5, 10, 100 people from your organization take this assessment for themselves. And by the way, it's free on our website. So anyone who wants to take that assessment, either them or all the members of their team, as you know them from itmlinstitute.org, just go there and you can take it free. It's free now. That assessment will always be free. But then that data is going to be aggregated. The aggregation is it aggregates the individual assessment data and all this skills and knowledge-based stuff that creates organizational team plans, skill set inventories, hidden skills, which we'll talk more about later.
I love that term.
General analysis.
I love that term. The hidden skills part. When you start peeling back the onion, think about your team, right? Some of these folks, you might not even know. Like, you might know that I'm a guitar player because there's a guitar sitting here. But if I didn't have that there, you wouldn't know that. And I know that's not the type of skill you're talking about here, but those hidden skills of being able to, even those interpersonal skills, because you're going to talk a lot about that too, is the ability to communicate. All these skills, these hidden skills, maybe you could be helping your organization in specific areas because it's something you did 10 or 15 years ago, right, Eric?
Yep. As an example of that, let's say in a prior job, I was in charge of the change management part of IT.
Great example.
Change management in general. Now, I get a new job. I'm working for a contractor for the government. It's not that I'm hiding it, like I don't want anyone to know that I did it. It's just I'm not doing it here, so people may not know it. But let's say, for example, your organization wants to start up a change management group. It would be really, really good to know that I had, like a very high level of skill and experience in that area, because it might be a good promotion for me. It's easier for you or whatnot. So that's the idea of that hidden skills. That's one of the many things we'll be talking about. And then the third is delivery. All right, you can do all this assessment stuff. You can do this analysis to figure out who needs what and how much of what people needs. But if you're not delivering decent classes or classes at all, it really breaks from what the other two are. So, why do it if you're not going to then provide the value that can come from it? So in effect, what happens is if you don't do the assessments, then it gives you a lack of understanding of people's current skills and knowledge, which then doesn't provide the data in order to do the analytics. If you don't do the analytics, then there's the inability, you have the inability to basically aggregate how many people are interested, have what skill sets. And when I'm talking about skill sets, I'm talking about skills specifically and knowledge, which are certainly they're intertwined, but they're very different in their base. So it's really difficult to figure out what to train on if you don't know what skills people already have. And then with that is that the class delivery options, what happens is that if you're doing them on gut feel, gee, I think we'll do a class on this or train people on that. It may not be stuff they need. It may not be stuff that's applicable to their job. Or it may be things that they're already expert in and they'll be sitting there wishing they didn't have to be there that day. So when you look at the 5 primary areas of training in IT, and as I go through these, for those of you who may not be in the IT area, replace technical skills, where I'm saying Python, AWS, Azure, etc., with whatever technical skills are in your particular business area. But this is the first area of training. Excuse me. The second is methodological knowledge. I use the word methodological because it's a big word and it makes me sound smart. But on a serious note, it's waterfall, agile. It's all of those processes that you would use to manage projects. Interpersonal communication, IT management ability. That's things like, and we'll see this in a list later, but like budgeting, project prioritization, data governance, etc. And then the fifth area is leadership skills, just the ability to lead, which of course, whenever you have more than 2 people together, that becomes a very important skill.
So I love this. So I'm going to ask a poll of folks, because I'd like to know, if you flip these upside down, which one of the skills do you think is most impactful if you don't have it? Like, think about, obviously, there's degrees of technical skill that we can all learn, right? A methodological, did I say that right? I actually said it right. Well done, I couldn't say it before. Methodological, so of the methods that you're using, the interpersonal skills, I have my own that I think is really something that's important. And I think it kind of applies, the leadership skills kind of encompasses all those, doesn't it?
Yes,
sort of.
Absolutely.
Right? So, but for me, now I have a bunch of programmers on my staff, right? And let me tell you something. Programmers are awesome. I have one of the best programmers you'll ever find. And I will tell you, he has some of the worst interpersonal skills. If you start talking to him, and no offense, I can say this is a buddy of mine. He's been working with me for 14, 15 years now. But I can tell you that the skill set that's required to be able to communicate effectively with others, not necessarily has the tact. Can I say that here in front of everybody? Does everybody get that? Yeah, Ray, I love me some Ray Pearson. Good to see you, Ray. Yeah, tact is important, isn't it, Carla? Right? So, and it's almost like they're just not wired that way. Can I say that without offending anybody here? That some of the folks are just, they need to understand. And I think that's what's important. Is that you can get training on that, right, Eric?
Absolutely. I was the poster child for what you were saying earlier in my career.
Love it. So I'm going to leave this open for another 5 seconds, and you're going to go through this. You're going to flip it upside down on the next slide, right? So you're going to talk about the impact of these, and you're going to tell us what you think. So we'll give you another 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh, we did have a last second one. Anybody else? Let's see. Half a second, quarter second. All right, that's it. You're done. Here we go. This is it. So technical skills, 5%. 21% for methodological knowledge, 42% the personal skills, right? Interpersonal skills, and then leadership skills. I think they're so tied together, Eric, those two are
Absolutely.
So tied together.
When I think of these, is that I think, and I will see it in the next slide a bit, but like interpersonal skills, I see that as the tip of the spear on everything related to, if you're a project manager, running methodologies, from being able to manage and delegate, things along that line, and leadership skills. You have to be able to articulate what it is you want when you're in a management role.
That's a fact.
Or people don't know how to follow. continuing on that theme is that if you don't have a lack of technical skills, within your team, basically is you can't deliver. I mean, obviously, that's table stakes. If you're going to be delivering software or some type of engineering product or building technical infrastructure, you have to have people who know how to do the job. Next is lack of methodology. How well is the project going to be run? Is it going to be overrun either for dollars or missed deadlines? Is it going to just be a lack of standardization of projects across your IT area? Lack of interpersonal communication, I mentioned that before, but it drives low morale. It can cause redundancy in the work that's being done. I'll just use that one as an example. Let's say that I have 3 things to do. And I'll pick on a couple of names here. Well, let's say Dave. Let's say of the 3 things I need to do, Dave is doing 2 of them, and Mike is doing 2 of them. Well, what does that mean? If there's only 3 things to do, there's redundancy between them. The other side of that coin is if things aren't properly communicated from management and others, is if there's 3 things to do and Dave is doing one and I'm doing the other, then something's not getting done. So you can't underestimate the importance of communication.
Did you hear Eric use the R word on me?
Which word was that?
Redundant.
Oh. Sorry, no harm, no foul.
That's right. We're good.
Anyway, then if there's a lack of managerial ability, then that's customer service. It's it's not providing a good user experience. It's process inefficiencies in the systems that are being done. It's a lack of agility within the IT organization. And a lack of leadership for all the things in all kind of places where leadership is included. There's a lack of vision, objectives, values. With that brings reduced motivation. So bottom line is each one of these has its own huge advantage, but any one of them can dramatically hurt delivery and performance of the other 4. Now, let's turn this real for a minute. I'm going to talk about 4 different places related to where these 5 are used. And here I'm picking on agentic AI, which is a fancy way of saying a lot of AI agents. The reason I'm picking on AI, it's everywhere I turn, I see AI. The others aren't AI oriented. But anyway, and I'll just talk on this one, and then as I'm talking about it, I want you to extrapolate it to the projects that you're working on. Technical. All right, you have to have the platforms in place, the LLM, large language models like ChatGPT, et cetera. Interpersonal. Well, if you're rolling out AI as a project, then change management is going to be enormously important, which, of course, by the way, ties 100% down the line of interpersonal communication. IT managerial is that one of the things in order for AI to be implemented anywhere correctly is you really have to have strong data underneath it, and you need AI, data, and IT governance, because it's those 3 underpinnings which allow AI to roll out effectively in your organization. And leadership, someone has to be defining and driving that, that AI vision of where you should go.
And if you're looking for kind of an overview of that, you can see like what the president put out for within the handouts right there. Now I want to make sure everybody has access to those. If anybody came late, let me know so I can get you the handouts. Let me just pop those in here. But one of the handouts is actually information on that, so that you can kind of see how they're looking at the guidance for the agencies as well as for folks like us that want to provide services for the government. Does that make sense for everybody? So what else we have on this?
Other projects here, and you have a handout, by the way, of this full content that you're seeing here. Mm-hmm. So you can be feverishly writing down, or just listen now, and it's one of the handouts that Dave just mentioned. Mm-hmm. But also in the area of digital transformation, or you hear it as DX in the IT world. You have different components if you're just enhancing the infrastructure, the technical infrastructure, and underlying design of your IT shop. But also just traditional development efforts, is that we've been doing for 50 years in IT. And dare I say, I've been doing it almost that long myself. But anyway, is that for all of these areas, all of them are crucial. But as you look at this slide and going through the PDF later or looking at it now, is just tie those to your specific project and how they tie together.
Let's open it up. Anybody want to talk about a particular? These are 4 kind of broad areas. Anybody involved in a project right now with any that you would identify as one, either digital transformation, AI development, infrastructure upgrades, or traditional development? Anybody doing a project right now? Raise your hand. Anybody? I'd like to hear how you see these lining up. It's okay. Water's warm. We don't bite.
We'll come back to it should you pop it in. How's that?
That's fine. Yeah, let's do it. I just want to make sure that if anybody has any questions about how it fits in the training that you need. Anybody? All right.
Remember, you'll have the opportunity to email me directly if you want. Glad to talk to you offline. It comes with the territory.
You bet. Oh, here we go. Betty. Hang on one second, Betty. Let's see if we can unmute you, Betty.
Hello.
And how do you say your last name? Is it Grulin?
Yeah, Grulin, it's okay.
Grulin. Fantastic. Welcome aboard.
Thank you. So we do DoD work, and basically we have been supporting them with traditional development efforts. This definitely applies to us because we actually work on their military systems or general software development for knowledge-based systems. But now we are being kind of migrating to understand how can we integrate the agentic AI development.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And what are some of the challenges of being able to bridge that gap for you, Betty, and your team?
So for us now, we need to kind of understand LLMs and do our own research and development, since we were just focused on legacy systems. One of the systems that we're going to be upgrading is one that we could do RMF validation for the government, and we're going to be looking into integrating LLM to generate our artifacts through there instead of just outputting things by ourselves in the standard software application that we have.
And what is RMF?
Risk Management Framework.
Ah, very good.
Yes.
I thought it might be that, but I didn't want to guess, because if there's just a couple acronyms out there in the government, Betty. Just saying.
Yes. And guess what? It's coming. It's new. They just rename it, and I'm still trying to learn that one. CSRMC, something like that. They changing RMF now for a new way of doing it too.
Of course they are. Of course they are. Because I think what it is, Betty, is if you start working your way up in the government, and in order to be able to really prove that you actually work there in the upper echelons of the government, you have to create a new acronym.
Yes.
I appreciate that. So does this line up with kind of the thought process for what your team needs to be able to learn?
Absolutely. Yes, definitely. We have a team that does infrastructure upgrades, and they always try to be up to date with these terms. And then we have the standard traditional development that we do now, and we kind of slowly integrating the agentic AI development. For the digital transformation, we still kind of look into it to understand a little bit more how we're going to be supporting them and bringing new team members that already have this capability in order to help the ones that we already have.
That you're what a great setup. What a great setup.
You.
Because you're setting us up for exactly where we're going, right, Eric? Which is once
absolutely.
Then how many folks are on your team, Betty?
So I have 5 developers.
You have 5 developers. Fairly manageable.
Yes.
At this point. But once you get in the DOD, now DOW, right? Once you start to increase that, then you might get a little bit larger. It becomes much more difficult when I have 5 developers too. So I know I can kind of sort of understand what they're good at. But once you start growing, it gets really challenging, doesn't it, Betty?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I just became a Navy vendor, so I definitely need to.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Well, that's good. Anybody else want to pop in? I appreciate that, Betty. Thank you very much. I'm going to mute you back up. Anybody else want to pop in and talk about which ones you are working on, or I love what Betty did. You're moving in that direction and kind of increasing knowledge. Anybody else? All right, Eric, I think you have the green light to move forward.
Okay. What she said, RLF, that's a TLA. TLA is the 3-letter acronym for 3-letter acronym. But anyway, let me move forward. So, now we're going to start talking about the first of those 3 pieces, assessments. But from here is just sort of how do they use assessments in general. The first type of assessment is, for employee evaluation. How good is someone at something? You're hiring a programmer. What is their level of skill in Python or AWS cloud management or whatever it might be? And also is then from a managerial perspective, it could be for job performance reviews. So that evaluation that we have every 3 months, 6 months, once a year, or so on. So that's one way that assessments can be used. The second way is through for personal growth. Now that personal growth, if anybody's ever done DISC, colors, predictive index, Myers-Briggs, MBTI, any of those, as well as if you've ever done a 360 review. For those not 360 review, it's what do other people think about you. So that someone would interview your manager, your peers, and your staff to give you an external view of how you're viewed in the workplace. And these types of assessments. I'm sorry, Dave?
I was going to say, Betty's just chiming in. I love MBTI. I tell you what. Let's find out what they say about the type. How do you assess your employees? How do you do it? Because, like you said, and the personality is one side, skill set's another side, right? So let us know how you do it. If you have like technical stuff, maybe you don't. We didn't even put that on there. Whether you do, we did it for the next one, but it's not on this one. So let us know how you're doing it. And a lot of these are multiple choice. You can pick as many as you want. So while they're filling that out, go ahead and continue on that thought process, Eric, because I think, to your point, assessments are they're critical, aren't they?
Absolutely. And the third type of assessment is that these are done, which is going to tie to what I'll be talking about here today, is toward licensing and certification, or more specifically to gain an understanding of the skills and knowledge of the people in your team. So then with this assessment in place, is that, all right, what skills, if you're going to be an IT manager or IT director, or in the government space, a federal PM or project manager, what are the skills that are really required to be able to do that? Well, the first set, there we go, are, if you think about it from the business of IT, cost center management. I mean, think about an IT manager who didn't know this kind of stuff. Cost center management, customer service, cybersecurity, data management. I'll just pick on a couple more. Just general IT management characteristics of what makes them successful. Be able to create IT service catalogs. There's that IT AI data governance that we talked about earlier, or just being able to run meetings and do time management. So these are the things that are the business of IT that you have to know if you're in an IT management role, from first-time manager all the way up to CIO.
And we can look at that and say, the list is not getting shorter.
No, and this is a partial list.
Yeah, that's not even all of it.
And then, cut me off when you want regarding the survey. I'll just continue till you tell me otherwise.
Keep going. Keep going. We'll review it in a minute.
Then there's the leadership aspect of it. Being able to come up with, your mission, vision, values, business acumen, which is really understanding what's going on not only in your organizations, but in those parts of the organization that you're supporting through your work. Executive presence, business acumen I mentioned, fostering innovation within your team, which is now so much more important because of the AI stuff. And then lastly, which we talked about earlier, is interpersonal communication. What are the specific skills in that area that are important? Active listening, being able to use, AI integrated communication. Conflict resolution, none of that in anybody's projects, right? Or difficult conversations.
Everybody here, everything runs smooth, no conflicts at all. Never had one.
Emotional intelligence, but also, presentations, or storytelling as it builds into one-on-one conversations or whatnot.
Love storytelling.
All of these are intricate in regard to the ability to be a successful federal PM or an IT manager. So from here now, let's turn directly into this triple helix thing, which, if you remember, was 3 parts, and we'll talk about each one individually. Assessment, analysis, and delivery. Now, a couple of key points to consider here. First is what I like to call the consistency principle. The assessment, analysis, and training, it works best when the skills and knowledge being assessed, analyzed, and trained are consistent with each other. The idea of assessing someone's skills in this area, which often is a big issue with internal skills inventories. What happens is they collect all this great information, but then they're not tying it to training or when it's needed in the workplace. But anyway, so they're consistent with each other, but then most important, as everything in IT and every other part of the organization, is it's consistent with the overall organizational and, well, IT goals. Now, a second thing is we're talking a lot about sort of IT management training in particular here. But what's important to know here is the example that we're going to be going through is for IT management training. However, the triple helix process also holds true for technical training, methodological knowledge. Wow, I got that one out twice in the same webinar without messing it up. I'm going to even say it again. Methodological, I'm going to roll. General leadership skills, but also for those of you who are saying, well, I'm IT, but I'm not IT, for any other profession, extrapolate the things that I'm talking about here to your specific profession and your specific team. So now let's begin by talking about data collection.
So let me do this. Let's share out what we talked about, the assessment part,
Okay.
because I think there's probably good stuff in here too. I want to look at the details of this real quick and say, so Carla's talking about performance assessment based on their fulfillment of job duties, right? That's great. Compliance to administrative requirements, also potentially requirements of contracts, right? And compliance with code of conduct. So there you go. So that you embedded that into your HR type of environment. Candace, there's one thing to have a cert, but another thing to have the skills, because sometimes the cert don't mean anything, is what I heard from Candace. Concentric 360-degree performance review software. That's another place, right? And all are important, often depends on requirement of the environment they're working in and the company interaction. Agree with that too. Behavioral assessment, right? And test during the interview process. So that's onboarding, right, Eric? And project samples and examples and experience. So looking at what they've done in their past, right? So that gives you a good example of that. So I just want to make sure everybody knew that. And then, so I do have a question though about collecting your data. Is this a good time to launch that poll?
Absolutely.
All right, let's talk about that. How do you collect it? So we just talked about the assessment part. So you have some of it's collected. Maybe you don't. Maybe just do it by gut feel, right? That's what I do, because I don't have a collection side, and I start asking questions. Who knows what, right? So gut feel and not. I live in both of those bottom ones for me personally. So you have learning management system. Maybe you're just doing it on a spreadsheet. I've done that too, right? Where we looked at it and say, what are the requirements of this? Who knows this, right? Review process. We talked about that too. So yeah, take us through what you're talking about, because it's one thing to collect the data. It's another thing to use it, which is where do the results go?
Absolutely.
In the abyss, or maybe it's included in federal contract documentation or attached to your record, or maybe you don't have any idea where it goes. But I know there's some people that have filled stuff out and it just disappears somewhere, because who knows? All right, so take us through it, Eric.
Okay. Yeah, but I'm a believer that if you're going to collect it, you should try to get the maximum use out of it. So let's talk about that collection process. Here, there's a couple of interesting things here. And by the way, this is actually the first 3 questions on our assessment. You're welcome to take free right off our website. Is first, you need to be able to define, what's like, if it's a 1 to 10, your level of skill, you have to define what is that, like no experience, and 10 being true mastery. You're an expert in it. But, just knowing people's ability isn't enough. Because remember, we're leading this toward training and growing our workforce to help them with their current job performance and to help them get, prepare them for next promotion. And everybody's job responsibilities and job role is different. Think of all the different silos within IT. I'm sorry, you're going to say, Dave?
I was going to say, I think this is great for everybody, because no matter what, you can take this away right now. So first thing is, look at the top lines with the skill knowledge levels, so being able to define that. And then the second part is, where it's applicable. So it's applicable right now. I need it right now, or maybe I need to bone up on it a little bit. But there's your where you are now, maybe where you'd like to go, or your general professional interest. That means, hey, does this
the example I like to use for that is, let's say I'm an IT supervisor. Then I'm not really going to be involved in IT strategic planning. However, it might be something I'm really interested in knowing just for future use in my career, or to gain an understanding of, what my senior leaders are doing regarding strategic planning for IT. So, it's something that eventually I'm going to want to know, but it's not related to my current job or my immediate next promotion.
Love it.
So then the reason you want to collect all this, because it's nice to know, for example, I'll pick on the third one, SMART goals. It's nice to know that I can use those to define department goals. But if I'm not doing it and I don't care about it, then probably if you're my manager, you don't want to train me on it, unless you think it's important in that regard. So anyway, this is one way to collect it. Now, this is, again, what do you think of you? Next one is what does your manager think of you? So the first one of these where it says 1, 2, 3, the level of current, that's what the employee puts in about themselves. But then to the right of it is, where does the manager think that, what does the manager think their level is? So if I think I'm a 3 and my manager thinks I'm a 9, then wow, I was underestimating myself. And the third one where it says level of required for the job, this is the template. This is saying, hey, you know what, Eric? You're a 3 in this particular skill. I need, I think you're a 5, but the truth is, to execute properly in your job, you got to be a 7. So this is where this information is collected, because then what that allows you to do is put all that information together. I mean, think of the type is, it's what I think of me, and it's what you as my manager think of me. Because if you have this collection at, a number of different type of data items, and which ones are important to my job and not, what that allows me to do is use it in a number of different ways. For my job performances, for goal setting for the year ahead, for the tasks that you're going to assign to me. Maybe, I said I was a 3 at something, you said I was a 2 and I needed to be a 5, following on the previous example. Maybe you as my manager are going to want to assign a task to me, which will help me build my skills. Or maybe it's, whoa, I don't want to give Eric that task yet because he can't properly execute on it. So all of these things are things you can use with that type of data, whether it's collected through us or just any other vehicle that you.
So let's think about that for a second. Can you go back to the other slide that you had? So let's say you peel back the requirements in an RFP, and you're looking to source your internal team against the requirements of the RFP. So this is to me, it looks like a great example of being able to say, who do we have that can fill this role today? Who's close enough to be trained up in order when this thing, let's say you win, and then you need to deliver, and then you could enhance your training to build them up if they're close enough, or if you have to come from a 0. Then you maybe have to go outside of your organization to find teaming partners that can fill these roles. And
absolutely.
What I love about what you just said about your assessment is, if you're doing this internally and you're doing these assessments internally, and you have somebody else say, hey, do me a favor, have your team go through this assessment, then they could incorporate that into their system. And then have that as part of their resources to say, I can reach out to these guys as teaming partners. That's what I think. I'm always thinking about BD side of things. How do I win more? But in order to win more, you better be honest about what you can do, right? And where your assessment level really is, because then you can get yourself in trouble in deliverability. Does that make sense, everybody? Thumbs up if that even made any sense. If it didn't, give me a thumbs down. But
let me also say what Dave's saying is absolutely true. Now, this is on an individual basis. You can do that. But we're also going to talk about a couple of slides down how you can do that or should be able to do that from an aggregated basis. But other ways you can just use this individual manager kind of data. Is that maybe your organization has formal HR job descriptions that people need to meet, either for this one or for the next one if it's going to be promotion. Or it could be government or industry-based job descriptions that you're trying to tie to. But also, as a lot of data is collected, you can also do benchmarking against your peers. Like, hey, a typical IT manager is good at this, not so good at that, really great at this. Where do you stack up as compared to everyone else who's taken this type of assessment?
I'll throw into this real quick, Eric, is that somebody I know from DOT many years ago was actually doing this kind of mapping thing. Where are our skill sets? And then looking at where they would like to go as individuals, being able to say, all right, here's what you need to train up on, right? And then the other side of the house is, hey, we need to know who we need to recruit in order to be able to fulfill these roles in Department of Transportation. That was DOT downtown, DC, by the way.
Now, speaking of those in general, now let's talk about our team analysis. So from all of this great data that you collected from individuals, which, by the way, you should be able to upload into your existing systems also, is that you imagine if you said, gee, you know what, data management is really important to I think it's important to our organization, but look at that. Only 66% of the people on the bottom here, only 66% of the people think it's applicable to their job. What do you mean with a data management group? So from here, being able to do this, to look at this column specifically, what it allows you to do is based on what individuals said, what's important to their jobs. You know what, looking at this list, if I'm going to provide training to my team, the first place I'm going to look is AI-based communication tools. Why? Because 100% of my team says it's important to them. 3 of them said they're really not very good at it, and 1 of them is Metza. All right, so this type of analysis, when aggregated, can point you in the right direction of not only knowing what your team thinks is important to them, but where their strengths and weaknesses are as a group. Now, next is...
So real quick, Candy just threw out... Yeah. So, are you there, Candy? Can you unmute for a second? Because I think you're throwing some really good stuff in here.
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, so this is obviously resonating, right? So the PMO, what's that stand for?
Project Management Office.
Yep. So when the project management office or a strong project manager, employee assessments, right? Then so that you still have to figure out how to tie these things together. So you built a matrix, right?
Yeah, that's usually typical for project management offices or project managers, because we need to know, well, who can do the work for this project. So it's important to have, like he's saying, like Eric is saying, to have those assessments to know who's on your team.
And how many are on your team, Candy?
You know, I am a solopreneur, but when I won a project last year, a bid last year for the USDA, and I found myself having to grab or hire employees in order to fulfill that. And so whenever I do have a project, I know who to gather. As I'm hiring, I have them go through assessments, so I know who I have and who I need to get.
I love it, Candy. You and I are wired the same way. Give me a problem I have to solve. I won! Holy cow! Now I gotta find somebody to get help. I love the way you think. It's risky though, right?
It is risky, but it's also fun. I enjoy it.
It's also fun. That's why we love it. I love it. Thanks, Candy. Appreciate that. So go ahead. Candy. Sorry to interrupt you there.
And I'll just say, Candy, that if you have, if you define ahead of time the kind of skills, which of course you would, are needed in the project, have them fill out something like this, so then you can compare the results to say, all right, I need 2 people that are good at project management, 1 that's great at data, 1 that's good at influence, 1 who can do communication, and the other items that are in it. For those of you internally in larger organizations, is that you can do, there we go, this. Where and this was exactly what Dave was leading to before. Wow, I'm gonna pick on strategic planning, just because it's the 4th one down here. IT department strategic planning. If you're starting a strategic planning department in your organization, or if you're on the vendor side and you're assisting a government IT organization doing so, wouldn't it be nice to know who in your organization has that ability? Whether it's a skills you know about them, or it's back to that hidden skills that we mentioned before. So is the ability to really slice and dice this data is really the power that comes from it. As you know, I wrote a best-selling book on productivity, is that my goal is you get at least 2 benefits from every one action. If the action is letting them do a self-assessment, then how many other ways can you use this to your advantage? The next of that from here in helping you staff up who has these is also, gee, you know what skills do people on my team have that I don't really know about? Look at that. And I don't know if anyone's been smiling at the names a little bit, but the gentleman at the bottom, El Dante, let's say you're starting a vendor management group internally. Wouldn't it be great to know that Al had that capability ahead of time? Or you need someone to be making client presentations or internal presentations to senior brass. Who in my team is good at that? Oh, look at that. Crystal Clear is great at presentations. So it's that widening of being able to get a deeper understanding. Because one thing about people, they're not cheap. They're not, inexpensive to have in your organization.
Oh my gosh.
Maximize their value.
Oh my gosh. If there's anything I've learned is that my people are the most expensive things that I got. And it's also the biggest benefit, right?
Yes. Absolutely.
Should be.
So then other places you can use this kind of data is in succession planning. For the next step, what should we be moving people toward in their next training class, on their next skill to learn, and lastly, just overall, training action plan. What that brings us to now is training delivery. Now, if you remember before in one of the slides, I'm going to use an example here of IT management training, but extrapolate this to the areas where you want to be training people in addition to IT management. So the first thing you need to do is pull together all that great data, compare it to the training classes that you want to give, and say, hey, which classes do people fall under? These are our four main classes that we've analyzed different people that are in our group and said, hey, this is the personal learning plan, like for Joe Smith or for Dave, if he did this assessment, it's saying, you know what, we're recommending that he take our ITMLP, take the ITMLE, this other one, nah, these other two, not so important. So it's helping individuals to be able to define which classes are important to them. And then obviously from the previous slide you saw, to be able to aggregate that to the group. Now, the classes that I've mentioned for us, and now as you look at these, is all of the things that we've talked about. Come back to our triple helix and the consistency that I mentioned, the things that we're learning about, that we're assessing people on, the things that we're rolling up, and the training that we're providing, all have to be in lockstep. Because if they're not, again, you're not going to know what to assess, what to analyze, and ultimately not who to train. What this is, and by the way, these first two, I'll just bring them both up here, were recognized by CIO.com and Indeed and others as top IT leadership training programs. But as you see here, these are teaching that business of IT that I mentioned before. The management leadership professional is for soon-to-be managers up to about 5 years of management experience. The MLE is for, I'll call them experienced managers or manager of managers. But also leadership, we talked, was an expensive component. Some of these also you would have seen in other places, budgeting, implementing AI, which we talked about a bit, change management. There has to be this correlation, as being illustrated here, between the classes and the topics being created as to those things that we're collecting, which of course needs to tie back to the things that are important to our organization. And the tip of the spear, interpersonal communication, which are things like, emotional intelligence. Anyone ever have difficulty explaining technical topics to non-technical people? Storytelling, which I think Dave said was one of his favorites.
I love it.
Through
storytelling and pulling in case studies, beautiful.
Yep, running meetings and so on. Mm-hmm. So, just other things related to, and all of this is tied into those assessments that we do, are just other things that we can provide. But with that, what I'd like to say to just sort of sum this up is like, DNA's double helix, this triple helix thing of assessment, analysis, and delivery. Now think of this again, generic again, from your particular organization. But those three things together, what they're doing is they're helping to maximize contractor deliverable capabilities, both to gain the contract, to know who has what, and then be able to deliver it in a successful way, as well as for internal IT operations. What I'd like to do here is I'd like to turn it back to Dave. I'd like to say thank you, turn it back to Dave for a few minutes for questions and words of wit and wisdom.
Sounds good. All you have to do is stop sharing, and we'll be back up. Yeah, well, any other questions you have, please raise your hand, pop it in the Q&A, put it in the chat. Doesn't matter. We got 25 folks here. We are going to get to the next steps to say, hey, what would you like? First of all, we have solopreneurs here, right? And we also have folks, potentially they're over 100, because you do a lot of work with government training as it is. And I just want to throw out that this is also being incorporated in government organizations to enhance the capacity of their teams internally. And then they're also looking to include this into the requirements, which I like as a BD person to be able to say, hey, introduce that. If you have the training and you have that certification on your team, introduce that to your contracting officers as well as your program managers, even more important for the program managers, to incorporate that into the scope. So I really like that. So we'll get to your questions. Let us know about the next steps, what you would like. You have training courses here that you can find out from Eric as well. You'll get a recap email that'll be coming soon. Once we do this, you'll have a finalized video in the next few days. You have the briefing presentation, the session docs. For those of you who missed them, you can grab them here. If you couldn't get to those, let me know. I think we solved those problems for everybody. All right. So in addition to that, there's if you are with the government, there's the ability to have the training sessions be paid for by the government, right? They're the forms that are in the handouts. Let me show you what those are, just in case if you're in the government, you can find that. I'm gonna pop that open. As you can see, standard form 182, including the sessions that you would be interested in participating in. All right, does that make sense for everybody? So, any questions before we get out of here? We're right up against it. Want to make sure we get your stuff done before we shut down. Anything that you guys have that you need, let us know. Eric's information is right there, so you can text right to him. You are welcome, Betty. You are welcome, Monica. We appreciate you all joining us. And feel free to take that assessment. I think that's an important thing to do anyway, don't you, Eric?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And it's my favorite 4-letter word.
Free.
Free. That's right. All right. Well, if we don't have any additional questions, feel free to reach out to Eric anytime. Right, Eric?
Absolutely. And also feel free to reach out to Dave. He has an awesome organization. I'm so thankful to being able to do this with you today. Thank you.
Yep. In fact, I'm going to be talking with somebody about using GovBrief. We have briefings going on to specific agencies that are still open, by the way. There are government agencies that are still open. You are welcome, Marlo and Candy and Ray. Always good to see you guys. Anything else you guys need from us except get out of here so you can get some real work done? All right, I'm going to stop this poll before we end this because otherwise it could lock things up. Eric, great job. Appreciate it. Great to learn about what's happening. Really encourage everybody to have these certifications because leadership certifications are important to the government as well as your organization. Good stuff. All right, we're going to end that and get everybody out of here. Great stuff, Eric. You got any last minute comments for everybody?
No, just thank you for being with us today. And again, thank you to Dave for having me on.
You bet. Appreciate you guys. See you.